So usually when we think about like the 3-letter agencies, specifically the CIA, we think about all the sort of like coups that they've done. You know, as progressives, as leftists, we think about their various meddlings in the elections and affairs of governments in the Middle East, per se, some in Cuba. And, you know, some of us who maybe like know a little bit more about the CIA, know about the various, literally the hundreds of attempts that they underwent to try and assassinate Fidel Castro.
Yeah, okay.
And how they increasingly sort of went up and how convoluted they are. And it's kind of funny when we see that and then think about all the successful coups that they've done. Like, oh my God, how could this organization, that's so good at meddling in these foreign affairs, have so many failed assassination attempts at this one guy? And it kind of has me thinking about the state of United States psychological operations as a whole. And United States, like how we try and meddle with other people's elections. But all that's kind of in the past. I care about things right now for the purposes of this.
I live in the present.
That have happened since I was born.
Okay. And
I was born in 2001.
Oh, God. Where are we going with this one?
So I was scrolling through my Instagram Explorer feed the other day, and it's I promise this is relevant. It is mostly like pop culture and collectible related, because, you know, that's the type of guy I am. So I'm talking Jujutsu Kaisen and action figures. To my imagine my surprise when I stumble upon a post that is an Osama bin Laden action figure. Stay with me. And naturally, I gotta read the caption to find out what is going on. Is this some wicked custom, or like what's? And I bring up PsyOps because Project Devil's Eye was a Central Intelligence Agency psychological operation project from 2005 to 2006. The CIA, working with the famous toy maker Donald Levine, often known as the father of G.I. Joe, created 3 prototypes of an Osama bin Laden toy that would be manufactured in China and shipped to Pakistan and Afghanistan. The toy itself, when heated, would then begin to peel off, revealing Osama to appear as a demon or a devil. His skin would be red, eyes green, and have black markings. The hope was that it would turn children and families away from Osama and the Al-Qaeda.
What was just saying he's a terrorist not enough for them?
I'm saying they needed to manufacture and distribute a toy version of Osama bin Laden that the skin literally fell off of. That's insane. Like, and if you see the image, it literally just looks like Darth Maul facepaint at the county fair. we really got Darth Maul Osama bin Laden before GTA 6 and even before GTA 5.
Yeah, that's crazy, because like, what if a kid never heats it up, then they just have Osama bin Laden action figure?
They just enjoy it.
What's the point?
Oh my God, I know. And it had me thinking about the state of U.S. psychological operations, and it's really got to be, and you think about this, and you think about Cuba, it's really got to be that we just threw enough shit at the wall that somehow we got these things done.
Yeah, we had like the wrong action team on Cuba for however long we were trying to overthrow Castro.
Exactly.
Because we did it quickly. Guatemala, Nicaragua, we were good. We've been good at coups or prolonging wars or army death squads or whatever else, just to make sure communists don't stay in power or get into power. We've done this. This is us.
And then the fall off happened quick.
The fall off did happen quick, and then we started making Osama bin Laden action figures.
Which
gotta wonder what they're doing nowadays.
That's what I'm saying.
They're widening the stripe in Tel Aviv for Pride Month for hostages.
And it's crazy to think that some team of people were all paid like, I don't know, $250,000 a head to come up with this. to drop Darth Maul Osama bin Laden.
Damn.
It's amazing the state of our country and the state that our country's been in.
Whatever guy in the DOD that decided to work with like Treyarch and Activision for the Call of Duty games was far smarter than whoever came up with the G.I. Joe Osama bin Laden action figure, because that has cultural staying power. You know how many young boys think the military is cool now because of COD?
Especially the resurgence in the discussion after the Black Ops 6 trailer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, recruitment's down. Call of Duty is good again.
And looks good.
It looks fun. May cop.
Yeah.
I might cop.
But yeah, that is a far better propaganda vehicle than fucking Osama bin Laden peelable skin. That's just, as a kid, I might think that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I might like, that's kind of sick.
I might be like, oh, shit, bro really popped off with this.
Not even his final form.
It's a transformer. They should have got Hasbro on it.
Yeah. That's good. Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. It's good to be back in the stew.
Always.
It's good to be bringing you all another episode. Today we got to talk about SCOTUS. We got a couple of SCOTUS decisions, but still waiting on some pretty big ones.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the bangers. This is more of a appetizer.
We got some Trump news, and we got some interesting tidbits to end off on.
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, of course, I'll remind you all, as always, if you want to live forever, reach immortality, make it to the Holy Land, head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. We are a single patron from the goal.
Single patron.
We are very close. We're on the cusp of greatness. Some would say we're edging.
Oh my gosh.
We're almost there. And once we get there, we'll reveal our special treat for all of our patrons, $5 tier and up.
You listen to this podcast, you could get us there by the time that we go live the following day if you're not already on Patreon.
Yeah.
You could get us there and maybe we drop the reveal exclusively on the live stream.
Oh, could be.
Could happen.
Can't drop it today because we're $4 away.
I can't believe you do this to us.
It's $4 monthly away from where we need to be. So if you want to help us get there, and more importantly, if you want early access to all of our content, that's patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Also on early content. Next video essay dropping probably tomorrow for patrons that are listening to this on Sunday, and then probably like at the end of the week for everybody else. But very exciting. That's early content you get exclusively on Patreon. Of course, consider subscribing to us on YouTube, following on TikTok if you didn't come from there, Instagram, Twitter, Discord. It's all in the description. And another way you can support the show, very kind way.
So kind.
You can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple. We got 2 of them today.
Oh my gosh.
You want to take the first one?
I will. This first one, End Wokeness by Kevin Shekel. I love how these fellas take a stand against Hamas and wokeness as a whole. Earned a new Patriot for sure. That's right, brother. That's what we try to do here on the Patriot Cast.
Oh, yeah, we sit on the fence.
We absolutely.
Look, we try to find the middle option because if you take 2 extremes, what's in the middle is always the best.
Yeah. You want to be average.
Precisely. You want whatever is in the middle of the 2 extremes that you've probably cherry-picked to form your argument.
Exactly, because, how'd they get there, those lunatics?
Our second and final review by Nick Pett. Are you registered to vote? Oh. Nick Pett says, is your address up to date? Did you vote in your most recent election? There are elections every single year, whether they're for town council, school board, or county commissioner. Power is always taken, never given. Don't give yours away. Take it back. And I fully endorse that. I endorse that message so much that in the description of all of our episodes moving forward will be a link to vote.org. They can take you to your voter registration portal for whatever state you're in, or they'll tell you if you have to do it by paper physically or go into your Secretary of State's office if you live in the year 1800 or something like that. So we'll
make it easy for you folks.
Yeah. It's in the description.
Exactly. And you know what? Thinking about what I just said, backtracking a little bit, I do have to issue a retraction.
Okay.
The live stream isn't this week.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The live stream is next week.
June 27.
Perfect time to talk about the live stream. Because as you all know, we will be live watching the presidential debate on June 27th, Thursday.
8 p.m. Eastern.
At 8 p.m. EST. Mark your calendars off. And perhaps open your pocketbooks. Not for us, though, because we will be doing a fundraiser alongside that live stream where all the proceeds that we earn during that time, where we're watching the worst possible options duke it out in the intellectual marketplace of ideas.
2 intellectual titans.
Intellectual titans clash.
Just behemoths, philosophers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. While they're clashing on stage, if you would like to support us in any way, all of those proceeds will be going to PCRF.
Yeah, that's right. Palestine Children's Relief Fund. As we said last week, of course, children have been the biggest victims of everything that's been going on. The genocide Israel has been conducted.
Unambiguously innocent.
Yeah, the children. So we'll be donating to that organization. Also coming the day before that is our 3rd official merch drop on June 26th. That will be going live at the same time the episode goes live. Patrons, of course, will get an early sneak peek at exactly what we will be selling in this merch drop. But also, if you can't make it to the June 27th live stream, again, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, June 27th, we will also be doing a fundraiser through 2 of the items we'll be selling in our shop.
Not 1, but 2.
So if you want to donate that way through Hiddo to PCRF, that will be available to you as well. But I would highly encourage you to come out to the debate because
it's
your civic responsibility.
Exactly. You want to be an informed voter. You want to be an informed citizen and see what they're going to say on stage. You know, they're talking about policy, guys.
That's politics.
This is politics. We live in a society, and you know how these debates go. They always talk about policy and they stay on topic and they answer questions.
Yeah. And next week, of course, will be our debate preview episode. But Yeah, they're going to talk about abortion. Joe Biden's going to say he's for it. Trump's going to equivocate.
Yep.
They're going to talk about immigration. They're going to agree. They're going to talk about Israel. They're going to agree.
Yep.
They're going to talk about a couple of other things. Joe Biden might do some, some liberal left-wing-ish populism, maybe if we're lucky. But yeah,
they're going to talk about guns, and Trump's going to be the only president on there who's actually passed gun reform.
Well, Biden did have that bipartisan bill.
That's true.
And Trump's gun reform's gone now. So
what a perfect segue into what we're talking about this episode. So, as we talked about last week when we ran you through the SCOTUS cases we have to look forward to.
Right.
We got some SCOTUS cases to look back on.
Exactly. This past
decisions
week.
dropped on Thursday.
Yeah.
So with that, we had a good decision and we had a bad decision. Mm-hmm. Better than I thought.
As predicted, I think, is what you said last week. You're really our Supreme Court correspondent here.
What can I say? Registered Hitto legal analyst here without a law degree.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? This is not legal advice or whatever that saying.
Never passed the bar, never even took the bar.
Never even tried. Didn't even take the LSAT.
But that's just elitist nonsense to gatekeep analyzing Supreme Court decisions.
Exactly. Like J. Cole said, I don't read, I experience.
Precisely. And I'm here to experience this episode.
Yeah, I just look at it with my eyes and I just form my own opinions. I don't need to read.
I'm a free thinker.
But I do read. I do read tidbits of majority opinions and concurrences, and now some dissents. It's pretty good. So, like I said, Supreme Court did something good, and they did something bad this week. The good news that we're going to start off with is that they did not restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone.
Huge.
Shout out the Supreme Court for that one, for not restricting women's rights yet again.
Yeah, well, they're getting there, though.
They're getting there. And you know what? It's hardly a real shout out because they didn't really rule on the case.
Yeah.
Instead, it was unanimously thrown out on the grounds that it had no standing. So what that means is that the justices did not rule on the merits of the case. And I think that explains the 9-0 instead of the 7-2.
Yeah, and I would imagine that means it's going to have, there's going to be a very similar case coming back at some point that does have standing.
Yes.
And then we will get the infamous 6-3 decision outlawing the abortion pill or restricting it in some way.
Yeah, and that's the opinion of also myself and some other legal analysts that I had read about, saying that, Clarence Thomas has signaled himself that he is for restricting access. You can't really get around the case not having standing, though. Mm-hmm. The people who were suing were not personally harmed. They had no reason to sue.
It is interesting because last year we had the case about the gay wedding website.
Yep.
And that person had literally no standing. She made it
was
a
hypothetical.
Yeah, she completely made it up and they let that fly. So I wonder if Clarence Thomas had some time to introspect. He was like, maybe we pushed the boundaries a bit too far that time. I don't want to get the guillotines out. I need to cool it.
Clarence Thomas introspecting, a novel thought, frankly. So it's something I wish was what's actually going on. But I do also have to agree that they are probably just eagerly awaiting someone who is a lunatic doctor who is actually maybe affected by, I don't know, his insurance going up for having to give an abortion in a state where maybe it's a gray area.
That's probably what it is they expect that another case will reach them eventually, but they wanted to take their opportunity to allow businesses to prevent gay people from using their services.
100%. Yeah. Well, come on, guys. Could you really pass that up?
You can't. If you're Clarence Thomas, guys, your life's goal has been making the country worse.
Yeah. Decisions come out during Pride Month. He had to. They had to.
Can't pass that up.
You know what?
It's a good opportunity.
Me personally, that's how I would do it too if I was evil. But speaking of evil, we also have some bad news that happened this week. The Supreme Court did deliver a 6-3 decision to overturn the Trump administration's bump stock ban.
Right.
So if you don't know, a bump stock is basically just a device that replaces the normal stock of a rifle and by the way of its construction harnesses the power of the rifle's recoil when it is shot to mimic the fire rate of a machine gun or an automatic rifle.
Yeah, I saw a video of that today. It was actually pretty wicked.
Yeah.
It's just like bouncing against your finger. Yeah.
They're dubious.
Yeah.
It sounds dubious because it is.
Dare I say, turns it into an automatic weapon.
Literally, functionally, an automatic weapon.
Not allowed. You can't buy those.
That's what I'm saying. However, maybe you can in a way. Now that bump stocks are allowed.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And we'll get into it, but first we have to talk about some history. In 2017, in the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, bump stocks were used by the gunman to increase his rate of fire and thus the damage that he could do when he shot into the crowd. If you don't recall, this is the deadliest shooting in American history.
It was like 50 people killed in like 11 minutes or something?
Yeah, 50 people killed in 11 minutes and 500 injured as he shot from like the nth story of a hotel into just a massive crowd of people at a country music festival. Bump stocks were the thing he used to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he didn't have access to all those bump stocks, if he wasn't able to do all that, he wouldn't be able to do that much damage.
And it's like It's kind of what bump stocks are designed for. You know what I mean? Like if you're hunting, you're not using a bump stock.
Yeah, and underscoring all of this conversation is the idea that a bump stock has no functional use other than increasing the rate of fire of a weapon and decreasing its accuracy.
Right.
It has no practical use in hunting. It has no practical use in sports shooting. If you're in the military, you have a machine gun. Yeah, like you're allowed to have one of those.
Right, exactly.
There's no reason to have a bump stop unless you would just want to increase the damage that you could do.
Yeah.
Reasonable that it would be banned, I think. But continuing that Las Vegas shooting prompted the Trump administration to ask the ATF to ban bump stocks, which they did under an interpretation of the National Firearms Act from 1934 that, surprise, bans machine guns.
Yeah.
Wow. And this should work since the entire point of a bump stock, again, is just to be a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's to convert your AR-15 into an automatic rifle 15. I don't know.
And I guess I wasn't as politically conscious as I am now back in 2017, but I don't even remember anybody on the right being that mad.
The NRA wasn't upset about it.
Yeah.
The NRA borderline endorsed the move.
Which you could say is just because they're not principled and they recognize Republicans never actually going to regulate firearms. But this is like the bare minimum thing. Even if it is legally questionable, if the executive office really has the power to do this under this law, that's a different question. But undeniably, bump stock should not be a thing you can just get.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no. Like the question of if they should exist or if they should be purchasable or craftable, no. Like you should not have that. Even if the laws passed by Congress in 1934 wouldn't give the executive the power to ban them.
Even though, I think there's a reasonable interpretation.
There's a good argument
that there is.
Yeah.
And I think we should get into why Clarence Thomas thinks that there isn't, because they threw him on the majority opinion here.
Great.
And, I'm hoping that they threw Clarence on this majority opinion to sort of stave his desire to ruin democracy in another one. Him writing this 19-page opinion maybe stops him from writing the Trump immunity opinion that literally says a president can do whatever they want.
Yeah, if Clarence Thomas is on the majority opinion, if he's the main guy writing the majority opinion, it's going to be some dog shit.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of the worst legal documents you've ever read.
And it is, and I think we should dive into that. So in his, technically, opinion, Clarence Thomas explained exactly why the court thinks the ATF overstepped its authority as a federal agency. Thomas said broadly that when Congress enacted the National Firearms Act, the National Firearms Act, they could have banned all machine gun-like guns, but they didn't. They only banned machine guns.
What else was like a machine gun?
I'm sorry, but they didn't have switches in 1934. Like, they didn't have switches. They didn't have bump stocks. They didn't have any of this.
You can't get a switch, can you?
No, those are explicitly illegal.
Right, yeah.
But by the same mechanism that a switch is illegal, I feel like a bump stock should be illegal.
Precisely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in 1934, they weren't thinking of these things. They couldn't imagine putting a switch on a flintlock. You know what I mean?
They were thinking of fucking swarthy Italians in pinstripe suits walking up to you with a Tommy gun.
Nobody was going to put a switch on an M1911.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They couldn't comprehend that. And the founders... They couldn't even begin to comprehend a switch on a flintlock.
All Clarence Thomas has to say here is like, oh, it's not within the purview of the 1934, so on and so on. But instead, he just brings up the stupidest fucking arguments you've ever heard.
And it's good. Let's talk specifically about those arguments. So he said, the National Firearms Act defines a machine gun as any weapon that can fire more than one shot automatically and by a single function of the trigger. And from SCOTUS blog, Thomas said this contrasts with the bump stocks function because rifles equipped with bump stocks do not fire more than one shot from a single action of the trigger. Each time that a shooter fires the rifle, Thomas emphasized, the shooter must release pressure from the trigger and allow it to reset before re-engaging the trigger for another shot. The bump stock, he wrote, quote, merely reduces the amount of time that elapses between separate functions of the trigger by allowing the shooter to quickly press the trigger again. This is a very interesting way of looking at it because there are ways to use a bump stock that allow it to fire multiple shots within a single trigger pull.
Yeah.
So that kind of runs that bit of the argument moot. I don't know why he included that in the majority opinion, but Well,
and it's besides the point that, like, if it's doing everything a machine gun can do,
it's a machine gun.
It's a machine. Yeah, it's functioning as a machine gun. It is killing people as a machine gun.
If it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck. It's a duck.
Exactly.
even if it's not like explicitly written out within the content of the 1934 law, I think we can reasonably say that it falls within an ordinary interpretation.
Yeah, if the crafters, if the founders of that 1934 law were alive today, I bet they would say that's probably pretty bad.
I bet they would scream. I bet they would be fucking absolutely enamored by the idea of what we've come to when it comes to guns. But either way, Clarence Thomas does address that issue that you can still achieve multiple shots with a single trigger pull. Again, from SCOTUS blog. Moreover, Thomas continued, even if a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock does fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger, it does not do so automatically as the law also requires. And then he kind of engages in this weird roundabout explanation of what automatically means. Thomas explained that if a shooter wants to fire multiple shots using a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock, he must also actively maintain just the right amount of forward pressure on the rifle's front grip with his trigger hand. Well, this additional input from the shooter, he reasoned, means that the shots are not automatic.
Brother, what? You have to have a hyper-specific hand position. Therefore, come on, dog.
That's what I'm saying. The basis of this opinion is that, well, you know, one action of the trigger pull would fire one shot, but if you place your hand just specifically in this right spot, or if you gauge in, let's say, a higher level of technique than just squeezing the trigger, that means it's not automatic.
Come on, dog.
Which is absolutely ridiculous considering a gun doesn't fire itself.
Yeah.
You actively fire a gun.
Yeah.
Whenever you go through the act of firing a pistol, a rifle, whatever, you have to engage in some level of technique to simply get the trigger off. If we are adding the most basic level of technique on top of that, your stance and how you hold the weapon, how can that reasonably disqualify a weapon from being automatic? I don't understand.
Well, and it's not even just a matter of technique. The bump stock is designed to do that. That's what the bump stock is designed for, is to make it fire quicker.
The bump stock is designed for a quicker fire with successive trigger pulls. But if you hold the bump stock in a certain way, and if you put pressure on certain points of the bump stock, you don't even need to press the trigger multiple times, which fits the NFA's definition of what a machine gun is, unambiguously, as Clarence Thomas himself has stated. What he is arguing here is that you have to think a little bit harder about it, and because you have to think a little bit harder about it, that means it can't be automatic.
Come on, Thomas.
Even though it is firing
my God.
automatically.
Clarence Thomas, the GOAT.
Absolutely asinine decision there. And it's really hard to put into words how ridiculous this all sounds. Again, guns do not fire themselves. You got to do something to get the bullet out of there. Ridiculous. An extra technical step that anyone can perform with even a modicum of practice should not disqualify it from being a machine gun. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's what the bump stock's designed for, yeah.
Exactly. And if we switch gears a little bit to talk about a concurring opinion that Justice Samuel Alito wrote, he states the following: the Congress that enacted the machine gun ban, quote, would not have seen any material difference between a machine gun and a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock, end quote. This is a concurring opinion, where Alito said the Congress that enacted the law would not see any difference between a machine gun and a rifle modified with a bump stock.
But doesn't this just completely contradict?
Exactly. But this ironically does echo the same sentiment in Sotomayor's dissent. However, Alito goes on to say, quote, the statutory text is clear and we must follow it.
Oh, so it's not about original intent. It's about your individual interpretation.
Yes.
So we're not originalists here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of these guys frame themselves as if they, in the opinion of the framers. Like there is... As much as laws need to be technical in order to function, I guess they need to be hyper-technical in this instance. We need to consider what an ordinary interpretation of the law would have been. We need to consider the context of a bill's passing to be able to adequately understand the purview of that bill and what it is, what it ought to do, what it is meant to do.
Well, and the problem with this 1934 law is the same problem with the Second Amendment generally, and it's that the framers of each pieces, the framers of the amendment and the framers of the bill couldn't have anticipated how advanced weaponry was going to get.
Exactly.
Right? Like the framers of the Constitution, or I suppose the Bill of Rights, didn't know how good guns would get at killing people.
Yeah.
Just as the framers of the 1934 law didn't know that bump stocks would be invented and cause this this issue. But if Alito can admit here that the same people that wrote the law would have considered a gun with a bump stock to be a machine gun and therefore would have banned it, then he should be against Clarence Thomas's opinion.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. But then Alito then goes on to justify this by saying, well, Congress now, it's in Congress's hands now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's not wrong, but it's not going to happen.
That's kind of the issue with this entire ruling, right? And why I think that this kind of why this signals very bad things for the cases involving Chevron that are coming up in 2 fucking weeks when those decisions drop. Because this is all within the scope of considering that the whole idea behind this is that Clarence Thomas says you have to give an additional level of input and that invalidates the automatic nature of a bump stock. I feel like that falls directly within the ATF's purview as an executive agency to reasonably interpret a law under the field that they are experts in. Say what you will about the ATF. A lot of people have opinions about it. However, they are the executive agency that regulates firearms. They are the executive agency that has the right to issue rules surrounding firearms. And a part of what Chevron enshrined is that these federal agencies can reasonably interpret laws.
That makes me nervous for that decision.
Exactly. And if you're telling me that a reasonable interpretation, the interpretation the ATF put out of this law in order to put the bump stock ban forth in the first place is a level of interpretation that is a sliver above the explicit text of the bill.
It's not a stretch.
It's not a stretch at all. Yeah,
Alito is admitting it's not a stretch.
Exactly. The material isn't stretched at all. The material is relaxed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is not taught.
There is no, literally.
There's slack.
I mean this earnestly. There is no higher level of interpretation that you can, or there's no lower level of interpretation you can engage in here. This is the bare minimum of, this maybe means that. Because it kind of explicitly means that. You know what I mean? And it's so baffling and makes me very frightened for the role of the administrative state in the future.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court will sometimes do this thing where it's like, oh well, it's in Congress's hands now. And generally, if you devoid it of context, I think that's what the Supreme Court should do most of the time is say it's up to Congress. But of course, in context, we know our Congress is dysfunctional, and it seems like they only defer to Congress when the decision they offer is a conservative outcome.
Yes.
Because they know Congress won't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they would have deferred, their Dobbs decision to Congress rather than back to the states, then that would have basically guaranteed abortion access because Congress wouldn't have had the votes to act one way or the other. It seems like when there's going to be a conservative outcome that would need to be changed by an act of Congress, that's when they say, Congress can handle this. It's not up to us.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's kind of obvious what you're doing here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's hidden behind so many layers of plausible deniability. Because as you said, the court generally should refer to Congress when it's acts of law.
I think that's how it was supposed to work originally.
Yeah. Oh, I'm an originalist.
Yes.
I'm thinking how the framers intended. That is explicitly how it's supposed to work. But we've had multiple different laws and interpretations of the law and Supreme Court super precedent that have established, that Congress gives administrative agencies the right to interpret laws because they cannot pass a bill about everything. They can't be bogged down by every single issue, especially ones that they are not experts on. That's why the ATF and the EPA and all of the fucking NLRB, the Department of Education, that's why they all have these powers.
It's a pretty basic understanding of what bureaucracy is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To interpret laws because they need to. Yeah. If the bump stock ban would have had to move through Congress, it wouldn't have, or it would be tied to other bills. It would be fundamentally changed. It's just not, it's unnecessary to subject this to the bicameral legislature. You know what I mean? And that's why the administrative state is a good thing.
Yeah.
And this court specifically does not fuck with
On
that.
the whole, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Sometimes it offers bad outcomes.
Yeah.
Every institution will offer bad outcomes sometimes. However, I think the outcomes would be far worse if it collapsed, which it might in 2 months.
Yeah, no, it might completely collapse. Yeah, generally, I think the bureaucracy is good when compared to its complete absence, right?
Yes.
Unless you consider things like the post office trying to shake us down for stamps.
Oh my God! What do you mean 68 cents a stamp?
Yeah.
That's, oh my God.
What do you mean $380 for 500?
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
Crushing small businesses right there.
Yeah, no, it's fucked up. I don't know if you had it in here, but there was one point in Clarence Thomas's opinion where he said there's basically, it was somewhere in Clarence Thomas's opinion on the bump stocks, where he said there's not really a difference between having a bump stock and having a lightning quick trigger finger.
Then Then what's the difference between having a lightning quick trigger finger and a fucking machine gun?
And it's funny because it's like, okay, if I put like, I don't know, spring shoes on and go play in the NBA, is there no difference between me and someone who can naturally jump that high?
No, literally.
You take the spring shoes away.
And it's also like, yeah, some freak of nature may be able to fire a fucking 700 rounds a minute just with his finger. I can't outlaw his finger. I can outlaw a bump stock, though.
You can make it less likely, which is like the point of laws.
Exactly. There's no argument. It's also like when you think about maybe this isn't necessarily analogous, but when you think about fucking doping in sports, right? You can't outlaw the freak of nature that is just naturally good, but you can't outlaw the use of, I don't know, fucking tren.
Yeah, exactly. It's absurd. Leave it to Clarence Thomas to just write the most dog shit legal opinions you've ever seen.
Oh my God, I know. It's generally baffling, especially to see that. And Clarence Thomas' decision statement is one thing. I know he's Clarence Thomas, and to an extent, I know Alito is Alito and is thus going to have bad opinions too. But just the gall for Alito to say, yeah, no, like the Congress that passed this bill totally would have included this. The Congress that passed this bill. It's one thing to just say that. It's a whole nother thing to say that while Clarence Thomas is engaging in just this atom-wide technicality. Like, I'm sorry, but it's barely a technicality. I'm reluctant to call it a technicality, to say that the way that you hold the gun makes it not automatic anymore. To say that because you engage in technique, the machine is not engaging in the way the machine is clearly engaging.
While Alito's like, yeah, no, it's literally, they would have banned this.
Yeah.
Like, this would have been considered ridiculous. It's absurd. Gotta love our Supreme Court. Very serious institution.
Definitely respectable institution.
And another reason that Joe Biden should be explicitly running against the Supreme Court.
Yes.
I guess he can't promise he'll pack the court because he said he wouldn't in the past, but he could say, like, you know, the president is the most important position for appointment of Supreme Court justices, so on and so on. Because nobody likes the Supreme Court at this point.
No, and I think he's starting to do that. I think I saw an article this morning about how I think Biden or someone else is talking about how the next president may be able to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices.
We need that.
And frankly, I'm kind of wondering who they would be. I'd imagine Sotomayor would step down, maybe.
I think Kagan might step down. I think she's getting old.
Oh, see, if Kagan and Sotomayor step down and Trump is president.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
You are never getting 8-1 good done ever again. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just not, and that's just luck. On the conservative part, you know what I mean?
As we've talked about before, if SCOTUS can pick any piece of legislation or any executive order out from its conception and just say, like, oh no, this is unconstitutional, you literally can't do anything. Like, and that's it was never, the Supreme Court is never supposed to be that powerful, but it is now. And if we can't appoint people in such a way that will allow us to actually do good things, then we're fucked for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. I can't. The 6-3 court is already devastating because it's like there are young conservatives on the court too. Like they're not old.
Amy Coney Barrett's like what, 50 something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Brett Kavanaugh, I think is 50 something.
They're gonna be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And lifetime appointments and whatnot. It's just I can't imagine an 8-1 court.
Yeah, no,
what kind of damage that would do.
If Biden doesn't get any appointments and Trump gets them, then like I don't think the Supreme Court's going to be liberal at any point in our lifetimes.
No, like, never again. Never again. Unless there was some immense stroke of luck.
Yeah.
It's nothing good is ever coming out of the court.
And like Clarence Thomas is like 80 something. I think Sam Alito's in his 70s or something. Like they're getting old, and it's hard to imagine like the most evil people in the country dying, but it reasonably could happen.
And it's like reasonably the 2 justices that step down. Maybe it's Clarence Thomas and Kagan. Wow, what a dream for Clarence Thomas to step down.
I don't think he'll step down at any point.
I think he's going to be on there until his passing. I think he lives off of hate and spite. That he maybe will live to 105 and still be on the court.
Maybe. I could also just see him waiting until like Trump is inaugurated. If he wins this election, then immediately stepping down.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, because like, you know, he's going to get millions of dollars from whatever dark money group.
Oh,
no matter what.
He'll just do a $5 million speaking deal at the Heritage Foundation. You know what I mean? Show up for one event, get $50,000 just continuously for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to justices when they step down. But like, man, I could see him doing it too, since he is so invested in just conservatism as an ideology,
making the country worse.
Like he is a cornerstone of the conservative ideological project. Like insane, man. Insane. I love the court. In summary, I love the court.
Yeah, court's really good.
I don't think we should abort it. I don't think we should abort anything, frankly.
I think we should make the court smaller and take off just the 3 liberals, all conservatives.
Well, exactly, because they're not like you got to consider the conservatives. They think about it in the way that the framers intended, like
and then they disregard it.
Well, only when it's for the betterment of the country.
Of course, yeah.
Being able to own a bump stock.
That's what being an originalist is. The framers would want you to have a bump stock.
If the framers knew what a bump stock was, they would think that that's really cool.
Do you really think the framers, the revolutionaries in the 1700s, wouldn't have used bump stocks against the British?
Precisely.
They would have.
What happened to well-regulated militias? Well-regulated militias really fell off. I think,
Shall not infringe.
I think we should bring back state militias.
Shall not infringe. Do you ever think, I want to buy my way into heaven?
Always.
I want to buy my way into the good graces of the people that I'm listening to in my ears right now.
That's right.
You can do that if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. And not only will you be supporting the show, not only will you get early access to all of the content that we produce, but you'll also get an ad-free experience on the Patreon every Sunday, every time we release an episode.
You'll be able to pull up to the sermon on Sunday, on the Lord's Day, to hear the gospel as it's spoken.
Yeah, no more being late, no more interruptions mid-episode if you're listening to this ad right now.
Exactly.
It's on patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's one of the best ways to support the show. It's one of the longest enduring ways to support the show.
Help buy a pass from all the sins you've committed. Start coming to church.
Yeah.
And we can get things going.
Yeah, that's only if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's in the description. It's there for you. Moving on to some election news, and now we gotta talk about Trump in a moment.
I was gonna say, honestly, moving on to the man that kind of made these decisions possible.
Yeah, Joe Biden showed up at the studio door with one of those huge checks.
Yeah.
And told us we had to talk about Trump today.
Okay.
And we'll get there in just a moment. But
I'm
really
a resist
quickly,
liberal now.
Yeah, for this next session, I'm strictly a liberal. Bordering on moderate, bordering on centrist.
Oh, I've always been a centrist. I've never taken a stand.
Before we get into this Trump news here, I wanted to stop by New York, one of the great states in this union. I wanted to stop by New York to talk about one Jamaal Bowman.
Oh.
So Jamaal Bowman is running in New York's 16th district.
Okay.
He's a progressive, and he's running against this guy, George Latimer. George Latimer is a Zionist. He's gotten a bunch of money from AIPAC. You can think of him as a Eric Adams type Democrat.
Nice.
A Republican.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of New York, he's a Democrat, but he's a Republican.
Which,
you know what I mean?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I genuinely, like, everyone thinks of New York as just this woke bastion, woke Mecca, New York. You know what I'm saying? Yet Eric Adams is the mayor, and they constantly run Democrats that aren't Democrats. Obviously, it's because they have to, because a Republican can't win there, just off of name alone. But the idea that they can slip the Republican ideological pinnings into just a Democratic candidate and literally be a dino, not to appropriate Trump's terminology, but to literally just be a dino.
It is.
It baffles me, really.
It's because the party machine in New York is just the Democratic Party machine in New York is huge, and it's very old.
Yeah,
and it's been doing this for a very long time. It's why we don't see it in states like Michigan or Minnesota, Wisconsin, whatever else.
Yeah, we get woke governors.
Yeah, because the Democratic Party infrastructure just isn't the same. The New York Democratic Party has just it runs the place.
Hey man, more radical change has come out in the Midwest in the last 2 years than in New York in a while.
Yeah. And so Jamaal Bowman, of course, being an anti-Zionist, being somebody who has spoken pretty prominently out for Palestine, is being targeted by AIPAC. AIPAC spending a ton of money in this race. I think the primary is coming up on June 25th.
Oh,
so
right
very soon, yeah. So
we'll be able to talk about it on our debate live stream.
If you're in that district, or if you have family, friends in that district, tell them to go vote for Jamaal Bowman on July 25th. But he's running against this guy, George Latimer. And George Latimer, as I said, pretty conservative guy. But I want to read you a tweet from George Latimer. I
love reading tweets.
Circa 2021. It was around the time when Andrew Cuomo, former governor, was going through his allegations of sexual assault.
Yeah.
As he was governor right before he resigned. And George Latimer had this to say.
Oh, no.
Again, the guy that progressive Jamaal Bowman is running against. George Latimer said, "In our world, no matter how heinous the crime committed, we presume innocence until guilt is proven. That standard, when we adhere to it, protects you and me. And when it is not adhered to, when a mob hangs Emmett Till, the justice turns out to be a crime itself." So here, the guy running against Jamaal Bowman compared Andrew Cuomo being accused of sexual assault by several staffers to Emmett Till, who was lynched by a white mob.
Over a false accusation.
Like, at a time when this country was engulfed in racism everywhere.
Yeah, this is just post or at the tail end of the George Floyd stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, 2021, yeah.
Oh my God, what the
Yeah.
dude, leave it to like centrist liberals to just bring the most insanely racist comparisons out when they think they're being woke.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if this guy's trying to be woke. He's defending someone who, let's be honest, even before this sort of the accusations were played out and more evidence came out, like with Andrew Cuomo, we knew he's a shithead.
Oh,
like that guy sucks.
And it's like just leave it to like white centrist libs to bring the most racist like to stand on the struggles of black people in this country in just the most racist way possible.
Yes.
To completely appropriate that struggle for just heinous means. Oh my.
And then George Latimer was later doing one of those like radio town hall type things.
Yeah.
Because again, the primary's coming up. And somebody called in. She said that she was a black woman and that she's heard him talk about race issues. She's made uncomfortable by what he says. And she brought up this specific tweet, which is how I found out about
Naturally.
it. And she was like, how do you explain this? And I want you to explain it without tokenizing the black community, because every time somebody asks you an issue about race, you bring up all the interest groups and different people in your life that are black that are supporting you now. So she said, basically, defend your record on race without tokenizing us. And immediately he starts listing the unions, the interest groups, the town councils, and all the black people that he knows that support him, and immediately does the thing that she asked him not to do. And cannot in any way address the Emmett Till situation until the moderator was like, well, she asked you about this Emmett Till tweet. And he's like, I took it down 30 minutes after. And it's like, why'd you have the impulse to put it up there, though? Like, what was happening in your mind that made you think, oh, this is fire? I'm putting this out there for people.
Diabolical pen. Dubious pen.
Yeah.
Dubious pen work right there. He must have had the same pen that Drake had in The Heart Part 6.
All you got to say, if you really want to defend Andrew Cuomo, which you don't have to.
Yeah.
Which you don't have to. All you got to say is like innocent until proven guilty. You don't got to bring up Emmett Till.
And it's like, was he an established Democrat before this?
Yeah, he's like a county executive right now in New York.
So okay, all right. I was just wondering if this was for the love of the game or not.
Yeah, he's had like local political offices. Now he's running for Congress, obviously. At the point he wasn't, but it's like, you don't have to do that.
I should really align myself with the guy who's about to resign.
Yeah, and be explicitly racist.
Yeah, while doing so. Man,
that's a twofer right there. That's a 2-for-1, baby.
That's crazy.
That's being bad on gender issues, and harassment towards women in the workplace, and it's also just being racist.
Man,
it's good.
leave it to a New York liberal.
Yeah, no, it's really good. But more election news.
Of
course, the debate is coming up in just a week's time from the release of this episode.
A week and a day.
And half of the equation at the debate is Trump.
Yes, it is.
And as I said, Biden brought us the big check to talk about Trump today. He's the man of the hour. He's a convicted felon. Donald Trump, we got to talk about him.
Convicted 34 times.
34 counts, Trump is a convicted felon.
Yeah, guys, can you
important.
believe that?
Yeah, no, I can't believe it.
Oh my God.
You really going to vote for a criminal?
That's all I'm going to talk about. That's the only aspect of analysis I care about.
Well, we do have some other Trump news that we got to talk about
today.
I'll
entertain it just for like other people, but, but me personally, that's the only news I care about.
If you can stomach it. So
I can't stand felons in any way, shape, or form.
if you're I've seen some Democrats on that type of shit.
No way. If you've broken the law in any way, shape, or form, you are an immoral person.
It's like I've seen them talk about like felonies and like making a mockery of the justice system or acting as though the justice system can be bad in any way as like some mortal crime that Trump has committed. When it's like, the criminal justice system can be bad.
Like, come on now. In this one instance, it was pretty good.
It was,
a lot of times it's bad.
Yeah, come on now. But we got to talk about Trump. We got to talk about VP picks.
Oh man, I love the vice president. I love what the office of the vice president means in that it's just kind of like historically it's been just a dude, but in recent history now it's a chick who just kind of goes around and does things kind of sometimes.
Says some bad stuff usually. Yeah.
I can excuse it sometimes because you didn't fall out of a coconut tree.
You did not. But you are
in the context.
You exist in the context of all of which came before you and all of which you live or whatever.
Precisely.
That's a good line. That's one for the history books.
It's a banger, bro. And that's all I remember from her. I don't remember anything that any VP has done.
Do not come.
Ever really. Exactly. Do not come. You exist within the context. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's another one in there that's escaping.
Wheels on the bus.
Wheels on the bus, baby. But other than that, like, the office of the VP is just kind of someone who's waiting for their boss to die.
Yeah. Well, and for Kamala Harris. She's really waiting for him to die because that's like a legitimate option. At
exactly.
This point.
If he wins re-election, my goodness, man.
But It's been reported that Trump has a short list of potential vice presidential picks for the upcoming election. And on that short list is the following people.
Do tell him.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Now, those are all people that were officially revealed to have gotten vetting documents from Trump, meaning that they're options that are being considered. I've seen some reports that Tom Cotton was on that list, another senator, I think, from Arkansas. I haven't seen much else on that, though, so maybe he is, maybe he isn't. NBC News reports that these 4 candidates have each received vetting documents, as I said, and are the most regularly discussed options within the Trump campaign. We're going to get confirmation on exactly who it's going to be in July when the RNC happens, obviously.
Oh, man. Imagine he confirms that at the debate.
It could happen soon. It could happen sooner than that, but I imagine it's going to happen at the RNC. And now, I could see why Trump would pick Burgum because he's rich.
Yeah.
He can pay all the legal expenses.
He really needs money right now.
Yeah, he can pay all the legal expenses. Other than that, Burgum's mid. And other than that, the entire list fucking sucks.
I gun to my head, I am not predicting any of these candidates. Yeah. I am not predicting any of these 4 people. Maybe I would throw out Tim Scott as like an extra at the end of my list. But y'all know our position. Mm-hmm. We were riding. We were on the Kari Lake train for a while.
Yeah, no, not picking Kari Lake. Her running for Senate in Arizona, massive misstep. She's crazy, obviously. Net bad.
Yeah.
Never says anything good, but for the Trump campaign, would have been an asset. And because she can talk, she's a media person,
and she's so incredibly loyal. Mm-hmm. She beat the dead horse of the election denial.
I think she still says Arizona went to Trump,
and like nobody does that. She's the only one playing that game. She damn near deserves it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to give it to her just out of that.
You got to give it to her. Like, she's trying so hard. She's beating the shit out of the horse. The horse is decomposed. Yeah. It's in the dirt, and she's still beating the dirt. The horse has grown into a beautiful tree, and she's chopping it down.
And she's from Arizona. Like, that's a state you need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a state Trump needs to win the presidency.
And, I mean, yeah, she lost in Arizona, but it's not like she wasn't – it wasn't a huge, devastating loss. Like, she's mildly popular there.
Yeah. She could have been something, and that's like sort of it's the thing is, like, I thought Trump would have gone with a woman just so he could cynically say that he's not a misogynist.
Yeah,
but I guess that would require him putting a woman into a position of power, and he's too misogynist to do even that. And it's sort of clouding the strategy,
especially post Dobbs.
Yeah,
people have rightfully the Democrats have rightfully associated Trump with that decision. Because it's his fault. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He appointed the 3 justices, the 6-3 majority, and whatnot, how it goes. You'd think he'd pick a woman to maybe be like, no, yeah, like, everybody wanted Roe gone.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Guys, you don't understand. Roe, like, shouldn't have had standing.
Just blah, blah, purely aesthetically, again, a completely cynical political move would be to have a woman VP.
You can put her in front of all of the abortion conversation, and Trump can dodge it.
Yes.
But now he can't, and that's the number one issue. Like, I don't understand, man. I don't understand.
Or like, I know he wasn't going to pick Nikki Haley because of the primary, but Nikki Haley would have been probably the best choice.
I think if Nikki Haley doesn't do all those things in the primary, if she doesn't run so hard against him, I think she's a perfect option.
Which makes me wonder why she did all of that at all. She could have just been the VP. Something she couldn't stomach it, I guess. But that's Trump's VP pick. We're going to be getting news on that pretty soon, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in the live stream.
I am at least surprised that Vivek didn't make it on the short list.
Yeah. Well, maybe Trump took Ann Coulter's statement as a sort of evidence of how they'll treat him.
Oh, this is very true.
She said she would not have voted for him because he's Indian.
Very true.
And I feel like that's how a lot of Republicans feel.
However, he is articulate.
Yeah. And maybe he'll pick
her words, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe he'll pick Tim Scott solely because they can tokenize him, as the Republicans already do,
I guess,
to Tim Scott.
But I mean, I think the money argument is the one that I'm leaning towards, because Trump and Alex Jones are the most financially fucked conservatives in the world right now.
Yeah,
both just down bad.
Yeah, and Trump could really benefit from a billionaire being his VP.
How is Doug Burgum a billionaire?
I don't know. He's North Dakota governor. He did some shit.
Jesus.
He earned it all himself, obviously.
Well, naturally, he built his business from the ground up, and he did it himself. He's a self-made man. He labored for that money.
Now, in some other Trump news, we got to talk about an argument I've been seeing going around.
Okay.
A lot of people on the right have been making the argument that because Trump is a convicted felon and has been, massive quotes, mistreated by the justice system, that Trump is now going to win black voters in the 2024 election. First of all, got to just say, insanely racist.
Yeah, that's
because we know they don't believe in systemic racism, so this is just saying Trump's a felon. Black people know what that's like.
Yeah.
That's all it boils down to, at a cursory investigation.
Years combating the claim that black people are persecuted, and then the moment Trump is, they're like, no guys, we could get the black vote, because implicitly in their minds they're thinking they're all fucking felons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're all felons. We should be able to cynically spin this to quote unquote relate to them. Big ass air quote, not my words. Not my words. Oh my goodness, because it's like, yeah, it speaks to how they think of black people in America. They're like, oh, they've all committed crimes.
Exactly.
They should understand what it's like.
Yeah, they're criminals. Of course they would understand Donald Trump.
Guys, 1350. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, because again, they don't believe black people have been mistreated by the justice system.
No.
And if they do now, then it's very obvious that they're just doing it. They're just saying it on air because it's politically convenient for them.
Which, like, is it even? I would love to see polling data on this, like, going forward. This can't work with anybody except for suburban white voters.
Well, I know, and I don't think it's working with black voters.
It can't.
That was my second point. Is it's just empirically untrue that black voters are going to support Donald Trump or that supported Donald Trump in the past. I will eat my shoes live on this podcast if Trump wins even 30% of black voters in this upcoming election.
It's insulting.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, they are actively losing black voters, and I don't know, I can't even say they're gaining the type of people who would support that kind of rhetoric, because they were already diehard Trump anyway.
Yeah.
Like, this is explicitly for no one except turning away the black voter.
And it's like, it's possible that Trump makes gains with black voters as he did in 2020. Like, that's not impossible to imagine, right? Specifically because Biden has been pretty bad on issues like Gaza.
I was just about to say, I feel like Biden's also not the best on the issue.
Of course.
And I'm fearful of maybe another vote for me or you're not black statement coming from him in this election cycle.
Yeah. And the last point I wanted to make here is that this argument is silly because the way that black Americans are mistreated by the criminal justice system is not the same way Donald Trump has been treated by the criminal justice system, right? Trump has regularly violated gag orders that he has faced no punishment for. Any other average black American would not be able to get away with it the way that Trump has. Literally every gag order he has violated in some way.
The judges have actively been lenient towards Trump in order to dodge accusations of them being unfair to him because he's a conservative.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy. He has been treated better than anyone else would have been treated in that same position.
And if we're not even looking at judges that he's being prosecuted by, judges that Trump has appointed himself are actively working to protect him by dragging their feet on cases like the documents case that's in Florida now. That's a Trump-appointed judge that's overseeing that, and they're taking as long as possible to deal with that case, which, again, is not something that the average black American being faced with the criminal justice system would have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing that people have access to.
And it's also Trump, one, will not serve prison time for this. I would also fucking stake my shoes on that one too. I do not think that Trump is going to prison, first time offender, all that other things. But it's also, you know, even if he did have a bit of a harsher sentence, it would not on average be harsher because of his race than maybe Black Americans on average face harsher penalties for crimes than their white counterparts do.
Yeah, that's
for
statistically
cases
proven.
that are very similar. This is empirical evidence. These are things that in similar cases, black Americans will be sentenced harsher. That's not what's going on with Trump. If anything, Trump will be sentenced easier because of who he is.
Yeah, not only because he's white, but because he's running for president and was a former president.
And there's already accusations of political persecution and unfair treatment.
Exactly.
So they are going to treat him unfairly in the other direction in order to levy that.
And all of that on top of the fact that Trump has the entire Republican Party at his back, which, again, the average black person would not have access to. And Trump, if it was just a black person in his position, would probably be calling for them to get the death penalty like he did against the Central Park Five, the now exonerated Central Park Five.
And it's also Trump is not, cops are not planting evidence when they pull over Trump. Trump is not getting pulled over and held in custody for hours or maybe even overnight because he fits a description. None of that is happening. Trump is not getting stopped and frisked in New York. You know what I mean? None of that is going on. None of the actual Trump's neighborhood is not being over policed.
Yeah,
Mar-a-Lago cops aren't constantly patrolling fucking Mar-a-Lago.
Trump doesn't have to work with a public defender. He's got the best money lawyers can buy.
Exactly,
or the best lawyers money can buy.
The best lawyers money can buy. Although he's not really buying them because he's not going to pay them.
Well, exactly.
He's not going to pay him, but he can pretend that he's going to pay him. A black American couldn't get away with that.
No, it's ridiculous.
It's insane. The actual issues that black Black Americans face when it comes to the justice system, Trump is not coming near close to any of them. Not even close.
Yeah, it's a complete mockery of any real intellectual understanding of how systemic racism works in this country.
Yes.
To suggest that Trump is somehow being mistreated and that's somehow endemic of how Black Americans are treated as well. It is ridiculous. And to me, it's a sign of desperation, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty clearly trying to craft a public narrative that Trump is winning over Black voters because of this. And I think they're doing that because they're worried that they're going to lose voters because of the convicted felon label. I just don't think there's evidence to suggest that Trump is in any way benefiting from it, even if they are doing public appearances with rappers to try to make Trump seem cooler with the Black community.
I would just love to be a fly on the wall in that like Heritage Foundation meeting when they're trying to discuss how could we spin this felony thing. Oh, I get it. Like every Black person is a felon, right?
Well, and it's like, they fucking hate having to put Trump in front of Black people.
Oh, absolutely.
They hate it.
Oh, Christopher Rufo fucking hates it whenever Trump does an appearance with 2 Chainz or Kodak Black.
Yeah.
Like, Christopher Rufo is sitting there and fucking gripping his fucking fist, white knuckling it.
And it's especially telling because if a rapper comes out against Donald Trump, they'd probably call him like a thug or a criminal.
Yep.
Or they'll make something up about him to make him seem bad because it's a Black person. Like, we know what this narrative is.
Yeah. No, it's fucking absolutely insane. And it's also just all of the ways that the conservatives have been trying to appeal to the Black community, like with Trump, have just been explicitly racist. The felony thing, it's all Black people are felons, therefore they should now relate to Trump. Untrue. Not my opinion. I can tell you that right now. And also, oh my God, Black people love rappers. Let's put them in front of them.
Yeah, after they spent years following George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, trying to convince us that systemic racism does not exist and it's the individual Black people's fault for not just obeying the police.
Yeah.
Literal years of them arguing for that. And now they're saying like, oh yeah, Black people, they've been mistreated by the criminal justice system and that's what Trump's dealing with right now.
Exactly. Come on, guys. Come
on. Trump has been treated nicer than literally anybody else would in his position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absurd. Completely absurd. Now, I have one more Trump story, and this is a legislative story.
I love the legislature.
We're going back to bills, words on paper.
Bills. Our roots in this podcast are in bills. Like, I feel like our first era was the Build Back Better era.
Build Back Better. We didn't build back.
No, we did not. It wasn't very much better than any other regular bill.
We got the bipartisan infrastructure deal. Which was, good.
Yeah.
But I don't like to see it when I don't like it when I see liberals on TikTok saying like, oh, did you know Joe Biden did this? And it's like, well, actually, it's not enough. I know it's not enough.
I do know he did that. And I do know that people didn't necessarily fight hard enough when all the good things were stripped out of it. Like the child tax credit and $15 minimum wage.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's good, but we need more.
Exactly.
It's like we're running a country here. Anyways, we're moving back to Congress here for a brief legislative story about Trump. And I'm just going to read an excerpt that I found from The Hill. And I want you to try to guess why our glorious Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, would be inclined to support this particular piece of legislation.
Okay, let me hear.
I want to see. It's really complicated. It's going to be, I think it's going to be really hard for you to parse out.
Lots of layers of legal analysis here.
Yeah. Very complex motivations. It's a narrative. It's a story.
Our listeners who have taken the bar, maybe you're not even equipped to understand.
Yeah, I don't think you will be. Yeah. You're not the SCOTUS correspondent here. The headline is, quote, Speaker Johnson backs bill to allow presidents to push state cases to federal court. And the article reads, Speaker Mike Johnson is endorsing a bill that would allow presidents to move any state-level prosecutions or civil suits in which they are named to federal court, potentially clearing the way for dismissal or pardon.
Man, frankly, I can't imagine why he would be doing something like this.
No clue. I don't know what the motivation would be. Seems like a pretty simple bill. No motivations there.
I mean, what's the difference between being persecuted in federal court versus being persecuted in state court? Especially when you're like the president.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind, really.
Nothing comes to mind. Does something come to mind for you?
Yeah, if you guys can think of an explanation for this, let us know.
Drop it in the comments. I'm stumped right now.
It's the most obvious attempt at just allowing Trump to pardon himself.
Insane. It is so bold.
Yes.
The gall of this guy to get out here and say, oh yeah, you did murder in Michigan and you're being pursued in fucking Michigan court. Well, actually, we can move that to federal court and you can pardon yourself for it.
Exactly.
What? Why would we do that? It's like he's trying to get ahead of a possibly negative ruling when it comes to Trump's immunity. Not even in. I didn't even think about Georgia.
Case,
I was thinking about the SCOTUS immunity case.
Or that too, yeah.
Like, it's like he's trying to get ahead of both of those things and be like, nah, he could just pardon himself when he wins in November.
Yeah. And the important part here is that there's already a process built into our criminal justice system for moving state charges to federal charges.
Yeah.
It just isn't controlled by the president. And so,
because there's a conflict of interest there.
Exactly. So Mike Johnson and the Republican Party wants to give Trump the power to move these cases solely so he can pardon himself at will.
Yeah.
That is absurd. Completely talk about banana republic, right? Like, just no checks and balances on the guy who's running the country at all.
Yeah, no, literally, because then he can quite literally go and do anything he wants while he is president and then just pardon himself.
Yes.
There is nothing that would be outside his. The whole point of the president only being able to pardon federal crimes is they're not controlling the states. That's how we kind of separate those things. That's how we can have a check and a balance even on the power of the president.
Yeah,
you're just taking that away, and they have carte blanche to do whatever.
It's nuts to think that these are the guys talking about, banana republic, this has become a dictatorship, the criminal justice system or the DOJ is being weaponized against conservatives, and then they're just trying to make it so Trump can do literally whatever he wants and pardon himself after.
Oh my God, we cynically believe that Trump is being mistreated by the criminal justice system. Therefore, we are going to give him the power of God.
Yes, yeah. Like the point of the U.S. president, even in the context of history. Yes. When the presidency was first created in the Constitution.
HITO stands for something in the originalists.
Exactly. We are originalists here. I read the text as it's written.
Yes.
The president was not meant to be a king who could just get away with anything. No. And if we take away this fundamental this check on the president's actions, especially in the context of Donald Trump,
because you exist in the context.
Yeah, exactly. In the context of Donald Trump, we're kind of giving the game away. And Mike Johnson, he's not a dim guy.
No.
Like, I obviously disagree with him on basically everything, but I know he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's probably more competent than Kevin McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know he knows what the purpose of this bill is. He's just playing his role as a stooge, I guess.
Man, that's
really good.
So bold. You love to see it, really. Why can't Democrats be this bold when it comes to, I don't know, a $15 minimum wage, a child tax credit, anything good that they claim to want to do?
It's the trend we've been talking about where a Republican, like once every few months, will get caught quoting Hitler or something. Yeah. But a Democrat is never caught quoting Marx by accident.
No, and Republicans every few months are caught putting forth bills that would fundamentally alter power dynamics within this country in their favor. Democrats, they give it up.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pack the court, Jack.
Yeah, we never get a leak that, like, as a kid, Ilhan Omar was a part of, like, the Communist Party or something like that.
Even though conservatives say all the time.
We never get something like that. But every once in a while, we'll drudge up a story where Mike Johnson's literally sounding like Heinrich Himmler.
Mike Johnson is the descendant of Hitler Youth.
Yeah. Or we'll get some white woman representative quoting the 14 words. Like, hey, come on. It's ridiculous, man. It's not equal.
It's not equal.
The Overton window's gone to the right, man.
You know what? Maybe we do need that Fair Media Act or whatever the fuck that used to happen, you know?
Yeah.
We got to give equal coverage.
Equal coverage, yeah, I guess so. Ending off on some extra news.
Yes.
We got some smaller tidbits to finish off this week. You may have noticed we didn't talk about Israel and Gaza extensively this week. And that's because there's no major news this week.
Yeah, nothing much happened.
For the only democracy in the Middle East.
I think there's a situation where I think the waves got too high and they removed the humanitarian pier. And they said, and Joe Biden's like, well, we're going to put it back, Jack. Don't worry. Yeah. It may already be back. I don't know. But either way, they're moving it. Just kind of goes to show how little that's really doing.
After it sank into the Mediterranean a few weeks ago. So good. Joe Biden's one thing that he brought up in the State of the Union was building that pier.
We're going to build the pier. Woo! Yeah, there's that. There's also the only, I guess, substantial piece of news to come out this week was that Israel has announced that for a small section of Rafah, they will stop fighting from the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And that's today, right?
Yeah, and that starts today.
June 16th, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing that to allow aid trucks to get in. However many aid trucks are actually going to get in, I don't know.
Yeah.
If this is actually going to do anything, I don't really know. That's what they're saying.
And did you see that it also caused division in the Israeli government?
I'm not surprised.
And Ben-Gvir said whoever came up with this idea was evil and foolish.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like a, 14-hour pause in fighting in one section of Gaza?
It's an 11-hour pause of fighting in one section that will be recurring. In a tiny section where they emphasized fighting will still rage in the other areas. We're just going to let some trucks in. Because the issue with the trucks is they're piling up at the border because they're unsafe conditions. Because sometimes maybe it's Hamas, maybe it's the IDF, but you don't know. but maybe both organizations will blow up your fucking truck. I have no idea.
That's bipartisanship.
It's bipartisanship. But either way, trucks aren't getting in. I've seen estimates that say only about 50-something aid trucks get in a day into Gaza, when before that they had 500. And that's when there wasn't an active war going on. So, you can fucking guess how many they actually need, but they're not getting it.
Yeah,
they face imminent starvation coming up in July, UN estimates.
Nice.
I don't know.
It's also getting hotter.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
literally the summer.
Yeah.
It was summer heat raging. Oh, my gosh, man. So, yeah, that's the thing that happened over there.
Yeah. And some other geopolitical news, there was the European Union elections where the far right and the conservatives won a good chunk of the seats that were up for grabs. I think the center parties still held on to power just barely, but the far right made some gains in Europe, which isn't good to see. I saw some analysis that it was generally just a revolt against incumbency in general. A lot of people that were incumbents just lost because a lot of people in Europe, same as the United States, are just angry at the people in power.
There's the establishment. That's what it's not the people that run the establishment.
Yeah.
It's the establishment, and we got to fight back.
Yeah, and I think I saw Viktor Orban's party lose some power as well. And Viktor Orban, of course, is a right-wing figure.
Yeah.
But he's been the incumbent. People are angry at him. Viktor Orban always wins by like 80%, quote unquote. It seems like people in Europe, maybe same as the United States, are just revolting against incumbents. Generally, maybe the incumbency advantage isn't as strong as it used to be. Either way, it's not good to see, and it's the same thing we've always said with sort of the trend of far right parties gaining power throughout the world. It's because liberals and conservatives alike in the middle buy into neoliberalism, make things worse. Austerity, budget cuts, deregulation makes things harder for people. There's no far left to organize the working class in a way that makes sense. So far right candidates get to come in and fearmonger about immigrants and trans people and gain power for themselves. That's all it is that's happening.
It's so much easier to stoke people's fears and get them mad at the admittedly ineffectual establishment when they're just coming out and lying to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And I do got to run back to Israel real quick, because I was thinking about what you said about how Ben-Gvir said that it's literally evil to let people eat, right? And it reminded me about how Benny Gantz did step down. He was a moderate. He stepped down from, I think, the war
moderate
cabinet.
in Israel, right?
Yeah. You guys know
we're
what
grading
I'm saying.
on a scale.
He was labeled by the AP as the moderate.
He doesn't want to completely eradicate Palestinians.
He wanted a plan for Gaza post-war, and that's about it.
And look, that's brave.
He stepped down, which, like, he stepped down out of protest of what's going on. But it's kind of ironic because that really just gave Ben-Gvir and the other just ultra-nationalist people more power, as they have kind of more representation within that cabinet.
Yeah, it's almost cowardly in a way.
Yeah, you know what? It's almost cowardly to step down in power, and by doing so, cede a larger proportion of power to the people who are doing the thing you're railing against.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not gonna say anything too crazy on air, but that's all I'll say.
You know what I mean? Like, it's fundamentally absurd to do that.
Yes.
Like, and now, because that's part of why Netanyahu has been so hardline, and other pieces of news coming out of Gaza this week are that ceasefire deals talks continue to break down.
Yeah.
Israel's like, nah, we did not say that shit about what Biden said last week, and Hamas is like, we want to stop to the fighting. Hamas wants a complete pull out of Gaza, and Israel said, we will not let Hamas have governing control over Gaza.
Yeah.
We are not doing this until Hamas is eradicated. And that ties into Benny Gantz's resignation, mainly because now Netanyahu is just facing more pressure from people who flank him from the right.
Yeah, if Benny Gantz really cares about what his government is doing, why wouldn't he stay there and do literally everything he can to get them to slow down or stop in some way?
Exactly.
Like, and I'm not even talking like assassination, you know? What I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no.
he's close enough to Netanyahu to do it if he really wanted to. But if he doesn't want to throw his own life away, right? Like, there's things he can do, there's levers of power he can use.
Yeah.
To get things to slow down. But if he just leaves the government, then the far right just gains more power proportionally.
Exactly. And now that's the far right is all that Netanyahu has to worry about.
Yes.
And she's gonna be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna eliminate Hamas. That's the only goal.
Yeah. Oh, not the hostages, not get the hostages back.
Oh well, we also want to do that too.
Yeah, but
on the back burner though.
Well, the pride stripe, the yellow stripe is white.
Guys, yeah, don't you see the flag we're putting up?
It's literally a white and yellow stripe for the hostages.
Yeah, guys.
We want to get them back.
That's pretty good.
So that's
Can't you see my dog tags?
That's geopolitical news. And some other domestic legislative news. There was a House bill to make selective service automatic now. So all men 18 to whatever the age is are automatically enrolled in the draft if this bill fully passes Congress.
Okay.
Which a lot of people have been getting angry about, and I think that's valid. The draft is something that shouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's an archaic thing that hasn't been used since the Vietnam War. Nobody should be compelled to go and fight for a country if they don't want to, right? You can work out the logic if you want. But I don't think it's that big of a deal because men of age are already compelled to sign up for the draft.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I was forced to get a license.
damn near makes our life easier.
Yeah,
it's one less thing we got to sign up. It was gonna happen anyway. It's
right.
just one less thing I got to sign.
Yeah, now you're automatically signed up, or maybe it wasn't to get a license. I think I was forced to sign up to take out student loans in my own name.
Yes,
at 17 or 18 or whatever it was.
It's something like that. It stops you from doing some milestone.
Yeah, you're already and I see why people are getting mad about it now because it made headlines. But it's a thing you're already compelled to do, and the low-key will probably save the government time and money if they don't have to track people down and say like, hey, sign up for this.
This is true. So I guess kind of a good thing.
Yeah, and we, of course, off of the back of this news story, got to see the great argument that people have, the very intellectually stimulating argument where they said, oh, men are forced to sign up for the military. Why aren't women? Don't you want equal rights?
Yeah.
It's my favorite argument.
Equal rights only has to go forward in the way where more people suffer.
Yes, exactly.
And not where less people suffer.
Oh, women want equal rights? You want to have your own credit cards? Well, why don't you get conscripted?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you go fight and die for a war that literally has no bearing on your life at home?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
take that, liberals.
It's the same vibes as like, oh, equal rights and lefts. How about that?
Yeah,
it's like, well,
equal rights, equal fights. I think a strong man should be able to beat the shit out of a little girl.
Yeah, it's absurd. I don't think anybody should be drafted. Hot take.
This is true.
Draft shouldn't exist. Government should not be able to compel you to fight for it.
But, hot take as well, as long as the draft does exist, I don't want to have to actively sign up for it.
Yeah. I don't want to forget and then not be able to go to school.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely.
In some other news, it's a very sad day for the United States.
It's sober news.
Yeah. Sobering news. This is serious.
News. Yeah.
Hunter Biden is now a convicted felon for having a schlong too long. He was convicted of dick too big.
Bro got convicted of fucking partying too hard.
He got convicted
of way
of
too cool.
Bitch too bad.
Yeah. I'm saying we started the day talking about guns. We're ending the day talking about guns.
Precisely.
I don't think Clarence Thomas would agree. This is persecution or some shit. Do you think the founders really wanted us to have, I don't know, licenses for guns or something? Or you think they just own that shit?
What's next? A license to you put toast in your toaster?
I'm saying. Oh my god, I can't imagine. The founders, they got their rifles and they had them.
Exactly.
And everybody knew not to fuck with them. And that's all Hunter Biden wanted.
Yeah, nothing bad ever happened if you have a gun in your home.
Yeah, precisely. Hunter Biden, the originalist.
Exactly. Original reading of the Constitution. So Hunter Biden is now a convicted felon, not for the schlong pictures, but because he wrote on a gun form, a federal gun form, when he was trying to purchase a pistol, I think, that he checked the box that said, I have not used marijuana or cocaine or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And that is a felony. And that is what makes him now a convicted felon. And I think the maximum sentence he faces is 25 years. He's not going to get that.
That would be insane.
This is sort of a relic from the war on drugs. It is really a nonsensical question because I guarantee you like 80% of people who own a firearm have smoked weed yet have checked the box that they haven't.
Yes.
Because of course, right? It's weed. Like it's everywhere.
And it's funny because like this is quite literally more nonsensical than the Trump charge.
100%.
Like, not even doing like the politics thing where it's like, oh no, my side can do no wrong. It's like, come on now, this law is stupid.
Yeah, and it's like this is the type of charge that that DAs like to get rappers on when there's like broader charges connected to them. You know what I mean?
Al Capone on tax evasion.
Right, exactly. It's a nonsense that this is even being tried against him. Of course, he did it. And if he did it, he's been convicted. He should face some kind of punishment, sure. But this is, quite honestly, more of a political persecution than Donald Trump's trial was.
Yeah, and honestly, like he'll probably just get probation. Yeah.
I don't know what he'll get. I mean, maybe.
You think he'll get time? You think Hunter Biden will do time, come out of this hardened?
That would be good. It has been nice to see people on the right just blatantly, with their entire face, chest puffed out, say that Trump's trial was a political persecution, but then go back to the law and order rhetoric when it comes to Hunter Biden, just boldly switching up in front of all of us saying like, yeah, Hunter Biden should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. This was a great decision out of this Delaware court or whatever. Yeah. And then Trump becomes a convicted felon, same as Hunter Biden now. And they're saying, oh, this is a political persecution.
Well, you see, I'm all for family values. So I think that it's okay when Trump has an affair with a porn star and then pays her hush money while falsifying business documents to cover up that hush money payment.
Exactly, yeah. That's fair.
That's fine because I'm pro family values. But what's not family values? Having smoked weed and then buying a gun.
Exactly. And I also believe in the Second Amendment shall not infringe.
Also shout out being infringed, but
no cognitive dissonance there whatsoever because I don't think about my own beliefs.
You know what? I think Hunter Biden should petition this to the Supreme Court and then watch them fucking overturn the law that says that you can't own a firearm and do drugs.
Yeah, that's the thing is he's going to appeal it, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere.
No, I don't think it'll go anywhere realistically. I do think generally that maybe if this was a conservative and it got to the Supreme Court, based on the new rules for interpreting gun laws as quite literally textual originalism, maybe that's how we get this overturned.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that anybody would face these charges if they weren't Hunter Biden in this circumstance. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or if they weren't like a high profile person. Of course, when you are the son of the president or you're a political candidate or you're a famous person, celebrity, whatever, you're going to be under a bit more scrutiny. Often you can get away with shit because you're rich and you can just pay for the best lawyers or whatever. So, part of it is understandable that Hunter Biden's being put under a microscope. Of course, had various addictions to cocaine and so on, but that's a different conversation. It's hard to believe that somebody gets hit with these charges when they're not Hunter Biden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these charges are so very rarely pursued against people.
Or it's just not like, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
It's not,
like,
yeah.
It's not. Bro got hit with the too cool.
Yeah.
It was just too cool.
And, when I think of somebody that's using weed, I don't think of like a mass shooter.
Precisely.
That's not what's happening.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I don't know how many manifestos dropped that's like, I'm a chronic weed user.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. It's just, that's not what's going on. I hope Joe Biden takes this Mike Johnson bill, passes it, signs it into law for a little bit, and then brings Hunter Biden's charges up to the federal level and pardons him.
Oh yeah, maybe.
That'd be good.
Yeah. It's just, I don't see any conservatives now making the argument that Hunter Biden's in touch with the black community.
I was gonna say,
you know what I mean?
You think
even though this piece, or even though this law, this very minor law, has probably been weaponized against black Americans in the past. Almost guaranteed, right? Like, literally. That's probably why it was made, was to get black Americans on bogus charges.
If it was a war on drugs law, then that is almost damn near explicitly what it was for.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what for laws against falsifying business documents were for, though. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Watch.
That's a white-collar crime, baby.
Watch the debate pull up. Watch us be watching the debate coverage on June 27th, and then, I don't know, say at 10:16, the moderator brings up, well, Trump, you are a convicted felon, blah, blah, blah. And then Trump tries to deflect the question by going, well, look at this guy's son over here, Biden crime family and whatnot. And then Biden goes, well, Jack, we appeal to the black community now.
And it's like, to be clear,
I wouldn't put it past him to do the same thing.
To be clear, I'm not saying Hunter Biden's in touch with the black community for this.
Absolutely not.
He did it, right? Like, it's pretty. I believe that he did it. It's just it's nonsense. It's a whole lot of nonsense. This episode full of nonsense.
Full of nonsense,
complete
man.
Nonsense.
But I would not be surprised if Biden does something like that. Considering the vote for me, Jack, you're not black.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
I don't know. We're gonna see what Biden does in just a week and a half for us.
That's right.
That's crazy. It's coming up quick. First debate in June.
Like 11 days.
Yeah.
I can't even. Oh my God.
It's going to be good. And you all better show up and show out. Sometimes you got to pop out and show, fellas. That's all I'm going to say.
Sometimes you got to pop out with your pocketbook and help us give money to PCRF.
And prove that you're down with the cause.
Exactly.
Just like these beautiful people are.
Beautiful, wonderful.
Patriots.
Immaculate patriot patrons. For giving tithe to the Patriot Cast.
Yeah, all of these people I know condemn Hamas. The rest of you, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, they condemn Hamas and they're against wokeness. These
like
people
us.
on the wokeness meter that we talked about a couple weeks ago, not woke.
Can't even register. Can't even pick it up.
Exactly. So levels of woke that are just like damn near within the margin of error because of how low they are.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God, what happened to our scale? What happened to our wokeness scale? And that's what I'm asking when we're talking about these woke corporations. You know what I mean? Just off the charts, but not these people. Special thanks to Caden Kraut, Lord Tal the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vezquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Bagel Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsver Yuk, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishin, Bennett Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Jonathan Cassis, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Sines, Aaron and His Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Ellie Yen, Devin Hatchard, Retromondo, Emma the Doot Slayer, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith the Grotler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, In Hope of Giants, AK Gone, Aquana Dawn,
Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Pab the Pab 69, Kayla Lowe, Anna Valenic, KCC, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pickman, Sir Capalot, Jeff Sines, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Zen doing their best, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ender, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Dick Cheney in 3-inch Heels, Lala Valesco, Particulon, Memfrez, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Classified Jones, Lauren, Uncrasomatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, Patrick Simpson, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Dialectic Dreamer, Kevin Kisaya, I think.
Oh.
Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, and my mom. Almost said my own name. My mom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm losing it. We got so many patrons that I'm dissociating.
Can hardly keep track of the list.
I don't even know who I am.
And I'm fiending for more.
Exactly. And if you want to help us get to our goal, but more importantly, if you want to be saved when the rapture comes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't. If you want to be saved from those fucking 7 trumpets or whatever, these people aren't going to be hearing the noise.
Patreon.com/headintheofficePod. Become a patron and pay close attention. We got a merch drop coming and we got a live stream coming.
And we got the Day of Reckoning coming.
So, and we're not going to tell you when that is.
And you don't want to be reckoning.
So get in now. Buy the Doomsday Prepper Kit.
Yep.
Which is a subscription to Patreon. And make sure you're saved. You and your family.
Oh my God! Don't forget the family.
The family unit.
Because only you will be saved if you subscribe to Patreon. So you should make multiple accounts for your family unit.
Yeah, the family unit, exactly.
Because we got to keep that together. I'm fighting to keep that nuclear family together.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.